time, I was an only child. Some people hate being only children, but I loved it. I got all the presents on Christmas. I never had an annoying sibling to deal with. My parents spoiled me rotten. And then Brienne came along. I was 11 when she was born. Right away, I couldn't stand her. My parents paid so much attention to her. She cried all the time. It was so annoying. If I complained I couldn't sleep because of the noise, my mom was just like, "She's a baby. That's what babies do." Well then, babies were the worst. To make matters harder, my parents thought Brienne was perfect. They were always talking about how beautiful she was, how smart. If you call crying and drooling smart, I guess. They went nuts the first time she smiled, and when she started goo-goo gaga-ing, they took like 8,000 videos. Meanwhile, everything I did was wrong. "Erica, don't run in the house. You'll wake the baby. Erica, don't talk so loud. Don't stand so close to the crib. Go play outside." If they didn't want me anymore, why not just dump me at an orphanage and be done with it? Then they could spend all their time with their precious Brienne. It got to the point where just the sight of my baby sister made me furious. Even my teachers asked me about Brienne. I couldn't get a break from people talking about her. At Brienne's first Christmas, she got dozens of presents. What did I get? Socks. Whenever I wanted to talk to my mom after school, she was always fussing over Brienne. I seriously had fantasies about taking Brienne into the woods and leaving her there. But then something happened. Brienne was over 2, and she still wasn't talking. My parents started freaking out that something was wrong with her. They talked to the pediatrician. He did some tests that determined Brienne could understand words, she just didn't speak. The doctor said some kids start talking late and not to worry about it. But my parents were definitely worried. And as much as I hated that now they were paying even more attention to Brienne, I loved that Brienne wasn't so perfect anymore. One day I was watching her while my parents were downstairs. She started babbling. "Shh," I told her without thinking. She looked at me with wide eyes. "Don't do that," I told her. "Don't make that noise or your head will fall off." I mimed her head popping off. At first, I wasn't sure she understood, but the next time I caught her babbling, I said the same thing, and this time she started crying. It happened a few more times, and each time I'd tell Brienne a horrible story about what would happen if she talked. I told her I had special powers that let me do it, but that she'd be in big trouble if she tried. I knew it was horrible of me, but I was just so sick of her getting all the attention. The stories got worse. I told her Mom and Dad wouldn't love her anymore if she talked. I told her they would give her back to the hospital. One day, Brienne said what sounded like "Dada," and without thinking, I slapped her. I didn't hit her that hard, but I was still shocked at myself. Then she started wailing. I went to my room, heart pounding, thinking if she were ever going to start talking, this would be the time, so she could tell on me. But she didn't. Before I knew it, Brienne was turning 3, and she still hadn't said a word. Now my parents were really freaking out. They took her to a bunch of specialists and were trying all kinds of weird homeopathic crystal alignment stuff to try to get Brienne to talk. The thing was, I was freaking out too. Over the past year, I'd gotten over a lot of my resentment toward Brienne. I was in high school now and had plenty to keep me busy. What did I care if my parents were obsessed with the baby? I even sort of liked Brienne now. She didn't cry as much, and she was really cute. But she wasn't talking, and it was all my fault. I filled her head with all those horrible stories, and I'd traumatized her for life. My parents delayed Brienne's preschool enrollment. They looked like they never slept. They were always on the internet, looking for solutions, for new doctors to try. The guilt began to eat away at me. I needed to fix this. "Brienne," I said one day when we were alone, "Brienne, it's okay to talk. I was just being silly when I said your head would fall off. Can you say Mama? Dada?" Brienne just stared at me. "Brienne, please talk. Just say one word. If you don't start talking, they're going to take you to more doctors. That's not good, right? You don't like doctors." Nothing. "Brienne, your head won't fall off," I insisted a little louder. Brienne started to cry. After that, I researched how to encourage kids to talk. I practiced with Brienne whenever I could. I showed her pictures and magazines and repeated the words over and over, but nothing came of it. I was so scared now that I had trouble sleeping. Mom and Dad had just taken Brienne to another specialist, and they wouldn't even tell me what the woman had said. "What's going to happen if Brienne doesn't start talking?" I asked Mom. To my shock, she started crying. She couldn't even answer the question. I realized I was the worst person in the world. I'd hurt Brienne and my parents. I was a terrible daughter. No wonder they'd liked Brienne better than me. I went upstairs shaking with anger and fear. I found Brienne and showed her a magazine picture of a cat. "Cat," I said. "Say cat." Over and over I pointed at the cat and repeated the word, but Brienne just stared at me. Then she smiled a little and clapped her hands, and I lost it. "Just say cat!" I screamed at her. "How hard is it? Just say one stupid word, Brienne. What are you, an idiot?" I kept screaming at her to talk until I heard footsteps pounding up the stairs. My mom burst into the room and found Brienne crying and me shouting at her. Mom pulled me away. "Erica, what has gotten into you?" "She won't talk," I said, tears streaming down my face. "Erica, she won't talk," I interrupted, "and it's all my fault." "What do you mean?" Mom asked. So I told the whole story, all the awful things I'd said to Brienne over the past year. "I don't know why I did it," I sobbed. "You just thought she was so perfect, and at first I thought it was funny, but now she won't talk, even though I tried to tell her the truth." Mom took me aside and calmed me down. "Erica, Brienne's last specialist diagnosed her with a developmental disability. It's not your fault she can't talk." I tried to breathe slowly and listen to what she was saying, but my heart was still racing. It's not? No, it was very wrong of you to say those things to your sister, but that's not the reason. I wasn't the reason? I will never forget the feeling of relief her words made me feel. I was haunted by guilt for a very long time. I always thought it was me, but I was still worried. What's going to happen? Will she ever talk? They're hopeful that with some therapy she'll talk someday. We don't know much yet. "I'll try to help," I offered tentatively. "Like if there are exercises we need to do with her or something. I don't know if she'll ever trust me, but..." "That might be good for both of you," Mom said, "if you can promise me that you'll be kind to her." I said I promise, and I hugged my mom tight. And I've done my best to keep my word. Brienne and I might never be best friends, but I'm trying to be a better big sister to her now. I just hope she knows I love her, whether she ever talks or not. What did you think of my story? Please share your thoughts in the comments and let me know if you ever had a similar experience. And don't forget to subscribe.